Okay, so if I understand this correct, then I'm live now and everyone can hear me. I don't know how many everyone's are there right now, but I'm just waiting for a thumbs up to start. Written on Discord and just give me a go if the presentation is to start. Okay, awesome. So nice to, well, see you. I don't actually see you at the moment, but my name is Malte, and I'm going to tell you a bit about origami, or to be precise, a bit about my little paper ponies, because it is a bit debatable if all of the art I'm going to show you is strictly speaking origami. But before I get into the details, I just well, first of all, I'm going to introduce myself. Like I said, my name is Malte, and I'm doing, among other, My Little Pony origamis, but also other stuff like pyrography, glass engraving, all that kind of stuff on DeviantArt. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to first give you a little presentation on the history of origami, the little introduction, but that won't be too long. Then I'll also deal with the questions on what you actually need if you want to fold origami, or more specifically origami ponies yourself. And then I'm going to introduce the art of great, amazing, really. Yes, I just got a post to launch the presentation. This is what we see at the live stream. Actually, wait, there seem to be technical problems because you should see something else. One moment, I'm going to close the screen sharing and start it again. Sorry about that. And moment. Sorry for the technical mess. Apparently, the screen share did not transfer the image it was supposed to transfer, but we'll have it in a moment. So. Yeah, actually, it should have switched to the screen. Unfortunately, it did not. Premise, but here we go. And something. So, sorry. Okay, so can you tell me, do you see the presentation slide now, or did you just see it a moment ago? I just minimized it so I can see the text. Okay, then I'll go back there, and once I start the presentation, I won't be able to read the chat notes anymore if it is in full screen as you requested. So well, I think it should work. Okay, so here we go. Like I said, I'm going to introduce you a little to the history of origami, then tell you what you need in order to create origamis, or more exactly origami ponies, but there's a lot of other stuff you can fold from paper too. Then I'm going to introduce you to the art of some really amazing origami artists. And when I'm done with the really amazing ones, I'm going to show you some of my own origami art, well, which is quite fine too, but on a totally different level than the My Little Pony origami done by some of the artists who I will also present, who have kindly given their consent for their art to be shown in the presentation. And also, lest I forget, the final slide of this presentation is going to include the links of all the artists whose art has been used in this presentation. And it's really worth taking a look, because obviously I could only show a few samples in a presentation, which is not supposed to, well, exceed the time limit. So here we go with the history of origami. Most of you will think of Japan right away when you hear origami. I mean, even the word origami is Japanese and basically means folding paper. Ori is paper and gami is folding. But interestingly enough, the first traces of origami date back to a time when there wasn't even any paper around. For the first, well, references to something like origami date to ancient China rather than Japan. And in that case, they apparently folded fabric that was solid enough to hold a crease, and was used as a folding material. However, it only took really off after paper was invented and brought to Japan by Buddhist monks. And in the following time, in Japan, they developed a couple of origami figures. And I emphasize just a couple, because origami as a living art with thousands and thousands and millions of origami figures is a rather recent development. The thing is that apart from Japan, paper folding traditions were developed elsewhere too, in Egypt, in Northern Africa, and in Europe. However, over here, it was mostly folding napkins on tables, sometimes with floral arrangements and that kind of stuff, but not really paper figures, though of the kind that we link to origami nowadays. As for Japan, it really it really started to become a thing in the 14th century. However, when I say it started to get a thing, I don't mean that everyone was starting to fold origami at that time. Because it was not a hobby for the masses, paper was still expensive, and also it was more of almost religious, spiritual thing rather than a recreational hobby. And up to the 20th century, there may have been only as many as 1 or 2 dozen of different origami figures, the most famous of which is a crane. Here's one old folding instruction, I think from the 18th century, one of the early references to origami, but there weren't all too many different origami figures. However, in the 20th century, origami became much more popular, and that is mostly due to the work of a man named Akira Yashizawa. I hope I didn't butcher his name too much. He lived from 1911 to 2005, and he developed by himself more than 50,000 different origami models. And he also created hundreds of folding diagrams. When I say he created origami models, it doesn't mean that he folded just 50,000 figures, but he developed them. He figured out how to fold dolphins, etc., from paper. And he also developed in 1954 the Yoshizawa Randlet system. That is a system in which folding instructions can be given. So people who have never folded an origami figure before get exact instructions what to do with the paper to get the figure the instructions are about. Now, as for myself, I came to origami in 2015 with a bit of a sad reason. I'm teaching at a school for adults, and I was going to hold a presentation there, to offer a presentation there, occasioned by the 70th anniversary of the nuclear bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And there's one very famous story about Sadako Sasaki, the girl in this monument you see in the presentation. She got leukemia in the 1950s because of the bomb, and following a Japanese tradition, she folded more than 1,000 origami cranes because this would grant her a wish from the gods. She died anyway, and ever since the origami crane has become a symbol for nuclear disarmament. And when I held that presentation, I wanted to fold a crane for every participant. I had never really done any origami before, but then I started with a crane and I got addicted. And within a month of the presentation, I had folded origamis of all the main 6, but I'm going to return to my own art later on. So what do you need to create origami? Basically, what you see, what I hope you see right now, just pieces of paper. Almost all origamis are folded out of square sheets of paper, and the more exact the square, the better. However, there are a few with rectangular shapes, which are not squares, but the huge majority comes in with square paper. There are special origami papers. Usually they weigh like 70 grams per square meter, but from my experience, you can do fine with 80 grams per square meter, so the regular kind of paper just as well. But they come in all kinds of colors too, and with different patterns. Then there is a so-called folding bone, which, well, there it is, which honestly speaking, you don't really need it, at least as far as I'm concerned. It is meant to sharpen the creases when you fold. I got one and never really used it, but it can be nice if you want to have very sharp creases on your origamis. Okay, and now we are leaving origami territory to some degree. Scissors. They are a controversial topic when it comes to origami. Some people say that whenever a scissor is involved, it's no longer origami, but kirigami, kiri meaning cutting. And some think that it would still count as an origami, but it's a useless crawl, basically. I think both is fine. I have the greatest respect for those who create really, really complicated origami figures without the use of any scissors. But I'll confess right away that the ponies I'm doing, I'm folding require scissors. I usually work with this kind of very fine scissor. I don't really know the English word for this one's usually to cut the skin on your fingers. Anyway, they can be used. And a very controversial topic, especially among bronies, glue. You don't need glue for origamis, but sometimes a little glue can help to stabilize a figure to make it last longer. So it is a possibility. So what can be folded out of paper? Pretty much anything. You see, rule of thumb for origami is if something exists, it can be folded out of paper, and if something doesn't exist, it can be folded out of paper just as well. There's basically no limit. And the good news for everyone who would like to give origami a try is that very, very many figures, very many origami figures start out the same way. For example, if you fold an origami pony, you use the same basic folds as you would use for the Millennium Falcon, for example, or for a crane, or for a dragonfly, or for many, many others. So if you know one figure, chances are that you know parts of the folding instructions for many other figures as well. Oh, here, a little comic for you, not done by myself. I shut up for a moment. This comic is done by Tim Splosion, and it really nails the possibilities of origami in a way. Also, there are different types of origami. There's also, apart from what you usually think of as origami, there's also the so-called modular origami. We have an example for this in this picture here, where you basically fold little triangles, or there are also other forms, out of paper, which can be stuck together, pretty much like Lego stones, and you can, yeah, basically turn them into anything you can imagine or can't imagine. Okay, and then there is this question I always get when talking to people about origami, the question or the statement, oh, that's way too difficult, I could never do that. I can tell you, yes, you can. You can do this. So far, I have not met a single person in real life who told me I can't do this, who with a little instruction was unable to fold an origami unicorn in 30 to 35 minutes or so. The thing is, you don't have to take a 10 years apprenticeship with a retired samurai in a Tibetan monastery in order to learn origami, because origami exists in many, many different difficulty levels. There are origamis which are extremely difficult, but there are also some where you can start easy, learn in the process, and get ever better. You can basically set your own learning curve. The main risk is that it's highly addictive, and you may end up with a house full of paper animals and stuff. Method to prevent this is to give them away. People are happy about this. You can be generous and kind at the same time, two elements of harmony, make other people happy with this. So I can only encourage everyone to give origami a try. Okay, then let's start with the art I meant to present. And like I said before, I'll start out with the art done by other artists who do origami much longer and much more intensive than I do. And I'm starting out with Hoang Thien Quet from Vietnam. Once again, I hope I didn't butcher the name too much. She was born in 1988, and she's one of the very proficient origami folders. She's regularly invited to origami conventions all over the world. I don't know if she is a brony or not, but she folded these ponies here, these origami ponies. And I mean, the left one looks very much like Rarity after Discord took away her horn. So I really wanted to include her art. And also her art is a special form of origami, for she's using very thick paper which is usually not really suitable for origamis, but she moistens the paper. She makes it a bit humid, dampens it, and then the paper can be folded without tearing, and it can also be treated almost a little like clay. And after the paper dries, it stiffens again, and you have an origami which allows for much rounder forms than is the case in traditional origami. There's another one of the same unicorn and earth pony. So, and here we come to an artist who I think is also a brony. This Celestia was done by Cahoona. And I honestly admit, when I saw this for the first time, my jaw hits the floor. just to make one thing clear, he did not use any scissors to create this. He just folded this Celestia out of a piece of paper. And he also gave the folding instruction for her. This is it. And yeah, this goes to show that he is on a different level than I am. For this folding instruction, you see in the lower right corner, just shows where the paper needs to be folded. And people who are really proficient are happy with this. They just see where the paper has to be folded, and they know the order in which things have to be folded and in which the paper has to be collapsed to finally make the figure you see here. I'm not there yet. I'm working on it, but I'm not there yet. But this is just a really fine example of what is possible. I just got sound that somebody is writing to me. I'm not really sure if well, the presentation slide is on. I cannot see any chat window. So for a moment, just well, it's impossible to use it at the moment. Okay, but here is also another example of Cahoonas Origami Art, and it goes to show that My Little Pony art doesn't have to be focused on ponies only. For example, there's this lovely Philomena, and since there was another call in the chat, I'm just going to check it for a moment to make sure that everything is all right. I'm not sure if maybe this is a technical call about this presentation. So I'll just interrupt the presentation for a short moment. Am I back? It seems the call was interrupted. Okay, I'll start the presentation again. Okay, I hope everyone can see it all right, that the window is back up and that the stream is running. I hope the interruption didn't last for too long. If I don't hear any further chat pings, I'm going to assume that everything is working out fine. So if it doesn't, please give me a call there. Like I said, you don't have to fold ponies to do My Little Pony origami. Here we have Philomena or Spike, again with a folding instruction. In this case, a folding instruction slightly easier than the one I showed you before, because this one gives different color lines depending on whether the paper is to be folded as a mountain, like this, or as a valley fold, like this. So this is how to fold Spike. And also, you can go floral. Here we have poison ivy origami. And the folding instructions for this are also online on Cahoonas' account. I can really recommend giving his account a visit. And here are other folding instructions he made. These ones are probably more relatable to most of us, for he really took pictures of each folding step. In this case, to fold the head of a pony, on the left side for a mare and on the right side for a stallion. And if you fold these, you will get, for example, these heads. With a little variation, you can make origami heads of the main 6. Okay, so we are going to the next artist I would like to show you, Cyberglass. Cyberglass, he also posted very detailed instructions on how to fold the figures which he creates. So his page 2 should be visited. However, I must also say, same as Cahoona, his art is very high level. So don't be discouraged if you see his folding instructions and try and fail. Honestly, I haven't managed to this day to fold some of these instructions because if an instruction starts with a with a point pre-crease into 16ths. That is fold the paper into 16 squares on each side. You know, that's very high level, and also you need a somewhat bigger paper than this. A main risk with these very complex figures is that the creases can tear during the folding process. So that's something I'm still aspiring to do, but we are also going to see some origami that is easier to do. But these artists are the ones I want to show you to just give you an idea of the awesomeness that's possible with origami. Here are the main 6 as folded by Cyberglass, and once again he folded them without the use of any scissors, and he gave detailed instructions on how to do this. Once again, those are the fold into 16 square instructions, so high level. Here it is. Here is a presentation which you can also see on his DeviantArt page on how to do it. You can see in the upper row of the instruction that step 4 means collapsing the paper. That is a very tricky part. You have all these pre-creases in the instruction, and then the paper needs to be shoved together to basically become the framework for the pony you can fold from it. And that's the final result of this folding instruction. Now I'm coming to the art of McNuckle Bones. He's the final one of the artists whom I would like to introduce to you today before going over the art I create myself. McNuckle Bones has a different technique than the others I have shown you before. For his origami figures consist of several pieces. He uses several pieces of paper to put these figures together. He also uses glue. For example, he has a basic framework for the pony figure, and then by adding the cut tail and wings, he created this chrysalis, for example, chrysalis, sorry, bad pronunciation. And he has done the same for the main 6 here. I don't think he is using any scissors for the basic pony form, but uses separate pieces for tails and manes and accessories for the different figures. And he also created some very beautiful looking villain origamis, like this Sombra, sorry, or here Discord and T-Rex. Okay, if this was a regular presentation where I could talk to you right away, I would ask at this point if there are any questions. But if you have any, we are going to have these at the end of the presentation, I think, because right now I can't hear you. But I will also be around after the presentation for any questions you may have. But that being said, I'm now going to start with the origami created by myself, and also answer a bit the question, why am I the one to hold the presentation when there are much more proficient artists around to do much more complex origami art? Well, I did some new stuff myself, and I think of all the origami artists out there, I'm one who has a strong focus on setting up the origamis to scenes. There are some examples of origamis I did, which I combined sometimes with digital and sometimes with non-digital backgrounds, and sometimes with folded background elements to create origami scenes that tell little stories, whether it be Lyra on her quest for hands with Bonbon looking kind of concerned, or Rainbow Dash flying the Sonic Rain Boom, by the way, with modular origami for the Sonic Rain Boom, etc. I'm not going to go into every one of these scenes here. Oh, but I should point out, seeing the Spitfire origami there, that you should definitely also see the panel after this one with Anne Healy. She's really awesome. She speaks Spitfire in the Swedish version of My Little Pony. And it was awesome to meet her at the GalaCon the year when I held this here panel for the first time. Anyway, I'm getting off topic. So, beginning is always difficult. These are some of my very, very early, possibly the first My Little Pony origamis I did. Luckily, I kept some of them. I was experimenting at the time on how to fold a pony. For example, here's another one not on the picture. This rarity has but only 2 legs. She was an early try, and here this is the same one as in the row down there. So yeah, they look somewhat rough, and I was still experimenting at the time. And here is the second generation, so to speak. That's when I figured out how to do this, how to fold them, and also made some prints. So I have pre-printed papers to create the main 6 and several other pony characters. But I still had some difficulties with some of these ponies. There are some things you cannot do with traditional origami folding. For example, you will see that the manes are always very flat around the ears, because that's just where the paper ends. There's always this ear gap, so to speak. And also you see the tails are always in this trapezoid shape, rather than, for example, the fluffy Pinkie Pie tail shape. So the thing I did was to print manes and tails of the ponies on adhesive labels and attach those labels to the origami basic folds. And so that's a final generation of paper ponies who probably shouldn't be called origami anymore, because there's glue, adhesive labels, and cutting involved, but they are still pretty nice. So those are the 3 generations of ponies that I folded. And also here's a little, well, origami evolution of Pinkie Pie from right to left as she advanced, as I started folding ever more complex. But I hope that it's encouraging for you to see the early ponies. You don't need to start out with something that looks awesome right from the first time. For what I don't show here are the pieces of crumbled paper or ponies which accidentally ended up in several pieces. So that's something that's just part of learning, and learning can be a lot of fun. So here is a little look at the origami papers I printed to make the main 6, to have the ready-made pieces of paper to fold the main 6. And thanks to the generosity of one other brony, I got several thousands of these. So whenever I'm at an event, I tend to fold ponies all the time and hand them out. That's a drawback of online presentations, of online conventions, that I'm unable to hand some of those right through the screen. But maybe next time we have a real panel, I mean a convention in real life, whenever that will be. But speaking of that, I really enjoy the possibility to speak to bronies from all around the globe, of whom not so many are. Well, there are quite a few, of course, but there are less people from the other side of the big pond or from down under at the GalaCon in Germany, for example, than there would be at this panel. Anyway, I'm getting off topic. Back to origami. The ponies I folded were based on instructions I had found, which I refined a little to make some parts more My Little Pony style shape. But I also started inventing own folding instructions, methods to fold figures. And the results, this is an early version of Discord, of a Discord origami, which I created. I wonder what the Lord of Chaos would say if I told him that his origami figure is based on the folding basis for a squirrel. Well, maybe he wouldn't really care. But here's also the print I use if I want to fold a Discord origami. Oh, and an important advice for you, if you want to fold origamis, and you can, of course, paint them after they are folded. And if you paint a figure and then unfold it, you also get a fine idea on what a print would have to look like, or how to you would have to draw on paper in case you want to paint an origami figure before folding it, which doesn't make a lot of sense. It makes more sense to paint it afterwards. So here, 2 more shots of Origami Discord. And Origami Luna. Yes, when it comes to Origami Luna, she is an example for another example for why I started creating origami ponies with manes and tails on adhesive labels. So there's one problem when it comes to printing origami paper. It works out fair enough if you print on colored paper in case of ponies who have manes that are darker than the color of their fur. Fortunately, that applies for most of the main 6. In that case, it's very easy to print. However, if you have an origami figure or a character with a mane that is lighter than the fur color, as in case of Luna, things get very tricky. It is, for example, impossible to print this lighter color on darker paper. In case of this Luna, I painted it with a gear roller pen, and I also tried stuff like first painting white on the darker paper and then painting in color over it. It never looked really good, so I ended up with manes on adhesive labels. Now I'm coming to just some of the scenes which I created by setting up ponies, scenes which also include some details, some additional folded stuff to get some life into the action. For example, Derpy's crash here. I hope it doesn't appear too mean, for friends are already there to help her up after the crash. By the way, the letters strewn there. There's one which I actually wrote with letter size 1, which lies here in a letter in which Twilight tells Celestia that right now she has to use a regular mail because Spike is busy helping Applejack, to whom he feels he has a life obligation. Though you cannot actually read the letter from here. You can read the text on DeviantArt if you want to. Yes, this very origami is dangling above me right now. It's dangling from my lamp, Rainbow Dash flying the Sonic Rainboom with a modular origami. These paper triangles, by the way, they are very, very easy to fold. So even in case you don't want to do the very complex origamis which are possible, everyone can fold these paper triangles and stuff them together, whether it be for a Sonic Rainboom or basically anything. They really work like Lego stones. Oh yeah, this one. This picture of the apple family harvest, it was a lot of fun to create. And I included this also to show how many different photo shots are taken before you get the one picture that you finally use on DeviantArt or elsewhere. Here are several alternative versions of the scene, which I set up, sometimes incorporating real apples or sometimes the apple family forming a pyramid, etc. There are many, many possibilities, and it just goes to show that with origami figures, you can set up quite a few different scenes. One thing that doesn't work so well is to move the folded figures around. That is to change the position of their legs or something. It does work for a while, but if you do this too often, the paper will really wear thin, and so I recommend not to do that, but stick to one pose which you have for a pony, and then give Applejack a big apple on the hoof rather than the head or something along those lines. That's always possible. Or if you want to make a series of images telling a story, you can fold a character several times in different poses and use the different figures. Oh yeah, Lyra and Bonbon Bench. That one was actually featured on Derpy Burrow once. Lyra looks a bit annoyed or angry there. That's not intentional, just her mane got a bit about her eye that makes her look a little angry, but maybe she is also angry because she is folded out of paper that is actually too thick to fold a pony from it. The thing is, Lyra's color is extremely difficult to come by in paper. I got plenty of paper that was either too green or too blue, or as in this case, too thick. So I went with a too thick paper for Lyra. And if anyone ever gets across Lyra colored paper that is like 80 or 70 grams per square meter, I would be very eager to know this for like Lyra, and she would enjoy to fold her out of paper that is not too thick. Speaking of paper colors, that's another thing. If you want to have scenes with several ponies involved, it makes you study shades of gray a lot. If you create ponies like Octavia and Derpy and Maud Pie, who all have their individual hues of gray in the show. And then I learned that somebody actually wrote a book about shades of gray, and then I got the book, or rather got it from the library, and then found, oh, totally missed the topic. I brought the book back. They didn't lose a single word about the important question of gray tones in origami paper. Oh, well, anyway. But this is also an example of how you can dress up paper ponies, as in case of Maud, who got a silk paper gown there, or give them additional equipment like the cello for Octavia, or create some background stuff like big muffins and small houses in the scene with Derpy on the right. Or you can set up the ponies alongside other forms of art. Here, for example, apparently Maud Pie likes her cousin Applejack and therefore put up a mosaic of her while in her hoof she's still holding Boulder. I think I took this picture with a bit of a too much color saturation on the camera. Oh yeah, and you can also create series of pictures to tell little stories. This is what I did in with this picture and the next few pictures which are following. It is one of the cases where things got out of hand when I was just going to create a little scene in which Rarity hands out Cutie Mark Crusader gowns to the Cutie Mark Crusaders. But before I knew it, I had folded the paper ponies, but then I wanted more background stuff. So I folded the mannequins for the carousel boutique, but when there were mannequins, then there needed to be clothes, and then there needed to be a rack for all the clothes. And before I knew it, there was sitting and giggling and creating all that background stuff for this image. Anyway, here is the next picture for the story. Things seem to get out of hand with over-enthusiastic crusaders jumping around in the carousel boutique and bringing Rarity down in their enthusiasm. However, they know when to stop and help Rarity up and clean up the boutique again afterwards. However, when I started this, I hadn't actually planned to make a whole set of clothes there, but I had ended up making silk paper clothes for all the main six, and because they were mostly covered in the images I had shown before, I created this little collage of the different dresses as well. Yeah, sometimes I insert backgrounds digitally, as was the case with the boutique pictures I showed before, and sometimes I just take pictures, as was the case with this picture, which I had set up like this in front of the TV screen with the background picture to get the image. But things can get even more out of hand when creating backgrounds for pictures, as was the case with this little scene of Derpy and the Doctor in front of the Unicorn Nebula, for which I had hung up the figures on nylon threads, and of course I removed the threads digitally afterwards. Things can get rather funny if you set up scenes like these. And here we have an example. The lower part is a regular photo and the upper part is digitally added. Yeah, same here. Okay, I'm getting closer to the end of the presentation. For here's just one more scene, which, well, friends will catch you when you fall. Twilight is about to fall, and each of the main six is reacting in their own way to help her out, and the whole thing ends with a picnic afterwards. And last but not least, you can fold very easy origamis, like the flowers in the center of this picture. And if you fold enough of them, you can also use them to create My Little Pony related art in kind of a different setting. Okay, so I have reached the end of this presentation, and it makes me almost nervous how fast it works to hold presentations online when there are no questions right away, but I will be around to answer your questions. But before I forget, here is a page with all the different pages, deviant or otherwise, of the artists whose art I presented here. I highly recommend to visit their pages for the works of their art, which I have shown here. Here are but just a few examples. They don't fold ponies only, but also all kinds of different origamis, and it's definitely worth a look. Thanks very much. I thank very much. I thank every one of these artists very much for their kind permission to present their art. Well, and my own origami page is online there too. And now I realize one point I have forgotten in this presentation, for I have detailed folding instructions too for the type of ponies which I fold. And they can be found on my DeviantArt page in the origami folder. They should help you to fold the origami ponies as same as the ones which I have shown before. Okay, so thank you very much, everybody, and I'm looking forward to hear any questions you may have. I think it's fine now to end the screen share. Oh, there was something new. Okay, I'm the straight stage. How long have you been doing polygamy for? Wait a moment, I'm not quite sure. Can you hear me right now? I'm not sure if the microphone is still running. Please, if you can hear me, please give me a sign there. Ask questions in bit state. Questions is can you hear me right now too? For then I can answer the questions via microphone. Otherwise, I'm going to type in the bit rate stage. Okay, I think. Okay, yes, sorry, I was on another window. Okay, there was a question up there. Oh, thank you very much, Fungi Ben. And there was a question, one moment. There was a question, how long have you been doing ponigami for? Well, I started with the origami in August 2015, occasioned by that presentation I had mentioned before. And my Little Pony origami followed the same at the same time. So by the end of September 2015, I had all the main 6 origamis. In recent years, I have been folding somewhat less origami ponies because there are so many other forms of fan art. I'm trying like pyrography, that is burning images into wood, or glass engraving, or creating ponies from felt or from wire, etc. It's all on my DeviantArt account. Okay, are there other questions about the origami ponies? Oh, by the way, I can post the link to the folding instructions from my origami panel here. Actually, I thought that I had included the folding instructions in the presentation, but apparently I had forgotten about that. So here you go. These are the folding instructions for the origami ponies, for unicorns, earth ponies, or pegasi alike. In case of the pegasi, you need to make an additional cut for the wings, or for the alicorns, for that matter. It's a bit great stage question. Oh, sorry, I'm very sorry. I was on the wrong window there. I didn't see the my bad. I was in the wrong window, so I didn't see your questions before. So now I'm going to go through the questions. How long have you been doing ponigami for? Yes, that was since August 2015, and ever since, a bit less in the last years. Those first pony origamis you showed us, were those the first completed ones or the incomplete attempts before? To be honest, I'm not 100% certain. I think that among them there may have been a first one, but to be totally honest, I'm not 100% certain if one of them was the first. Probably not, but they are the earliest I still have left. And like I said, there were also the crumbled attempts which never really made it. Okay, I know this isn't related to origami, but how is your day? Oh, my day is really fine. I totally enjoy doing this. This is the first time I do panel on a big online presentation. So far, I've done this only for local meetups, the Kölner Stammtisch, a meetup of bronies from Cologne, which occurs every month. So everyone who also speaks German is very invited to go there next weekend. And I made a little presentation there. Is it possible that you left us downloadable origami outline template somewhere in your DeviantArt? To be honest, I'm a bit reluctant to do that at this point. Thing is, a while ago, I created here, what is it called, the Patreon account, and I somewhat keeping them back to someday publish them there. But the folding instructions are there, and you can paint the ponies there. And actually, I may put them online. I haven't done so at this time. It has been so far a deliberate choice. I may change this in the future. I cannot really make any promises yet. How long does it take to fold a pony? If it can take about, well, it depends on how careful you are and how much practice you have. Usually, a total beginner with instructions usually takes about half an hour to 40 minutes for a simple pony. If you have the practice, you can do so a bit faster. Again, it depends very much on how careful you do this. For example, if you cut out the mane to fold it out, that takes a lot more time. If you just fold the basic pony, it takes less than 10 minutes if you have some practice. If you carve out the mane a bit more and do some more details, it takes longer. And in case of the ponies with a adhesive label, manes and tails, they take a lot longer, usually at least a quarter of an hour or an hour, because there's a lot more cutting out and detailed work there. What the difficulties to folding the origami into a pony? I would say the origami ponies, as in the instruction I gave there, are not the absolute lowest level of difficulty. They are more tricky, for example, than the Millennium Falcon, if you want to fold one of those. But they are not the extreme difficulty of folding paper into 16ths. So it is something that can be done. And as I said before, so far I have not met a single person who wasn't able to fold an origami unicorn in about 35 minutes after proclaiming that he or she was totally unable to do that. Have you ever accidentally spilled water on your origamis? Well, sort of, but the accidental came from above. At the GalaCon 2017 or 2016, there was one of the heaviest downpours I have ever experienced. The water was flowing into my shoes from above on the way back to the place I had rented for the GalaCon with a friend. And it rained inside and outside my backpack. So some of the origamis I had in the backpack, some of the origami papers were totally washed away. But other than that, I don't think I've spilled any water on it. I think one of the meanest things that happened was when I tried to fold Lyra heartstrings sitting on the bench in a very unusual pose. So she had to be folded different from the others. And I ended up with 2 half ponies. I felt very bad about that, but I had made a cut there that I shouldn't have made. So yeah. Do you plan to show us how to make origami ponies anytime soon? I'm very happy to do that. Actually, you know, I can switch on the webcam and fold one on screen. I don't know if it works quite as well as in a regular meetup, but I'm very happy to show you. We can do that if we find a place for this. If the moderators tell me where I should go, I'm very happy to do that. What is your favorite pony to make? Oh, that's tricky. The thing is, I am not very much into favorites. For example, I couldn't even say my favorite of the main 6 because I like them all for different reasons. So even, well, I hope I don't offend Applejack with the statement, but it's like comparing apples and oranges. What I can say is what's particularly difficult to make, that would be a Spitfire origami with the Wonderbolt uniform. That was really, really very difficult to make. But other than that, the ponies are folded mostly the same way, with just a few additional folds for unicorns and or you can fold a dolphin or an owl or any kind of animal, most of them within a few minutes, and make people happy. That's something I really enjoy about origami, that it's something you can really share with people and also encourage people to do this. But it's by far not the only form of fan art I enjoy. There are many, many forms of fan art I also post on DeviantArt, so it's not origami only. Does folding origami ponies hurt them? No, most definitely not. It does not hurt them at all. They are talking to me all the time and tell how much they enjoy being folded and set up in scenes. Sometimes they are complaining a bit that once they have a pose, it's tricky for them to actually change the pose. I think there's some animation movie from Japan where there are always origamis moving around, and my origamis keep asking me why they can't do that. The paper usually tears if you do that. Origami conventions are a real thing. Yes, they are. I have never actually been to one myself, but you know, there are artists who make a living from origami because they fold extremely complex origamis, and their art is really the jaw drops on desk kind of awesome. And yes, therefore there are origami conventions. Okay, questions are closed. Get ready for the next panel and the awesome animately heat. And it was a lot of fun, and I'll stay around. If you talk to me, we can find a place where I can show you how to fold a pony. So yeah, okay. Thank you very much, everybody.